like to welcome everybody to the APO Outdoors Hunters Podcast, where we're talking hunting. From regulations to sportsmanship, hunting gear, to even the hunting industry itself, we're going to try to cover all these topics right here on the APO Outdoors Hunters Podcast. So grab yourself a hot cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and let's get this show started. All right, welcome back everybody to the Anchor Point Outdoors Hunters Podcast. I have my buddy here, Brandon from B7 Outdoors, and we're going to talk saddle hunting. We're going to talk just kind of the whole concept. Brandon's come up with a pocket climbing stick, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I guess just kind of how you been, man?
Good. Been good. Yep.
Keeping busy. And
oh, yeah, for sure.
For everybody that doesn't know, I've been talking to Brandon on and off. You know, Brandon's got a hold of me here a couple years ago, and you've been trying to tell me a little bit about your step, and basically, you know, hey, man, I think we need to go down to this. You know, for me, honestly, it just, timing didn't, you know, moving back from North Carolina, it just didn't, doing a lot of work to our house at the time, but, so yeah, I mean, and then, I don't know, just here in the last few weeks, you know, starting the podcast, you know, and I heard that you finally got your pocket stick, climbing stick out there, and I thought, you know what, maybe we'll have him on. You can fill me into what's happened over the last couple years in the development of that, and really what you've been up to, basically. Like I said, I haven't talked to you in a little bit, but I've been pretty intrigued after talking to you the other day about the whole saddle hunting and that, so I've watched a little bit, and I think I'm going to give it a try. I think I'm pretty intrigued by it. You know, like I said, I was kind of shy. I was the guy that, I'm the old timer. I was the climbing stick, the ladder stand, but just recently been getting into a lot of public hunting. So I said, so I guess tell us a little bit about how you got into it and your history with the saddle hunting itself.
Yeah, I've been doing it, I think I'm going on 16 years now. I started into it way before it was cool, before everybody knew about it, before everybody was considering it, for good reason now. A lot of guys have promoted the benefits of it, and I saw that way back then when there was only a couple manufacturers making saddles. And my progression in it was, okay, I want to get away from a metal clunky stand, want to be more mobile, like what you want to be doing now.
Right.
And just the progression of that, like I got rid of the stand, I quit using climbers, I never really used ladder stands because I didn't have private property to really set them up on. So I was that run and gunner, and that's what I was trying to be more efficient at. And through the sticks that were on the market at the time, they were just big and bulky, and I wanted something more streamlined, but I didn't want to sacrifice the step distance of a normal stick. And so I just started trying to develop this stick for my own needs and wants, and finally was able to come up with a product that I think other guys, now that a lot more people know about it, I can see it being a benefit to other people. So.
Yeah, I just see a ton of people now. I mean, you, like I said, you can go on YouTube, and a lot of people, you know, go on YouTube now anymore, and there's just a ton of information out there. Like I said, after I've talked to you, it really surprised me how it's grown in just the last couple, 3 years. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, and even when I was talking to you a couple years ago, I was like, yeah, I don't know. You know what? I mean,
yeah.
Figured that's a young man's game. You know, honestly, that's how I looked at it. It's
Sure.
like, you know, I'll be 57. You know, a lot of people, you know, like, yeah, I'm going to go to ladder stand. But, I mean, I still like to get out there. I still like the climber. I still like to get back in there. You know, still have the passion to get out in that tree. And just from what I've seen, and you did a little demonstration for us. And for everybody out there, we'll have that posted up here in a little bit. But it honestly, I was intrigued. You know, like I said, I've watched a lot of videos of it, and I see a lot of people doing it. But I was really, really intrigued on how small your pocket climbing stick is. I mean, because like I said, I'm used to the 4 foot.
Yep.
You know, get the 4 foot, go buy yourself 20 foot, wrap it to the tree, climb up there, hang your stand.
Yep.
And this thing is the size of a water bottle.
Yep.
And it's crazy small but and then it extends right out to what you told us, 17 inches.
Yep. It's like this here, and then it extends. Trying to
And for a lot of people that can't see it, that's on Apple Podcast and Spotify, it's basically like a scissor.
Yep, essentially. That's the design.
Yeah, so if anybody's trying to, but yeah, it's just pretty streamlined, and I don't know, it's kind of cool, and it just compact. Being that guy that's did the running and gunning, trying to get in there, my idea was, getting there with my climber, and that is just, your whole setup is probably what would just put in just with my backpack and my camera gear.
Yeah.
Basically you didn't have really hardly any with your pack and your whole system to get into that tree. It was just, because I've done that. Like I said, I've had my climber, had my backpack, and it's just, when you're walking a couple, 300-400 yards or trying to get back in somewhere, get secluded, get away from people.
Oh yeah.
It can be a challenge to get in and out of the woods, and I just kind of grew on it. You kind of could talk me right into the whole concept here. Because
there's a lot of benefits to it, and that's the word spread because of it. And like you've been going out of state to do hunts, to try to streamline your setup and make it efficient. To go through all that work out of state and how many steps you have to take, or some guys like this or that, to streamline it and to go more compact and lightweight, it's a little less work to do what you're doing.
Right.
Which all of us, that's what we want to do.
Right.
Make things easier, So.
Yeah. And you made a good comparison, like you said. Because I've just recently had issues with people. Even on lease property, messing with my equipment, like going in there trespassing and stuff like that. And with this system, you really don't leave anything in the woods. You just, and like I said, somebody new to the industry of saddle hunting. It looks like it does cost a little bit to get into it, but no more than, when you start adding up climbing sticks and, a climber, it's just way more efficient in my eyes. Just watching you today go up the tree, rappel down. Just the quickness of getting up into that tree. And, really, you look at this stick and it's the size of a water bottle, but by the time you're done, you can put three of these things together and you're 15 to 18 feet.
Oh yeah, easy. With
an
aider. Yep.
Yeah, it's just. So I guess give us a little history. I've talked to you a long time, and I know you basically saddle hunted, and you've talked to a lot of people. What do they say about it? About your stick. What kind of feedback have you got so far?
Most all of it's been very positive, especially from people that actually have been using them, field testing them. No complaints there that I've found. And the progression for me, what led to it was the bulk of my climbing sticks. And that's what I wanted to get rid of. And there was nothing on the market at the time, so that's when I started down this road. What's that saying? I couldn't find it, so I built it.
Correct.
So that's no other choice to get what I wanted. And so that's how it came about. Just my progression and being more mobile led to these sticks here. And the feedback from guys, anybody that's seen them and handled them, and I get that big wow factor once it clicks because it's so out of the box. Like, this isn't your normal climbing stick, your 1-inch tube or whatever. The size, when they first see it, like, it takes a second. Like, they're looking at, like, I see some brackets, to go against the tree there, some standoff brackets. But then when you expand it and it clicks in their mind, they're just blown away.
Yeah, it starts to take shape.
Yeah, they're like, whoa. You know, like almost every guy that's seen it in person and that clicks for him like that, that's pretty much the reaction I get. And I'm not trying to brag on it, but that, honestly, that's pretty much out of everybody that's seen it.
No, that was my, actually, when I first seen it, I'm like, yeah, it's, you know, like I said, and I'm new to it, you know, but everything that I've seen, it's that,
Standard
18
length,
to 20
roughly.
inches or whatever it is. And, you know, they're hooked to the bottom of the pack, you know, and they're kind of hanging them off.
Mm-hmm.
This thing actually just can fit right into a pocket. I mean, the pocket you had it on, basically, you could put it in where you put your rangefinder.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sits right in smaller pockets, like you said. I mean, you could pack 4 of them in, literally in just small packets on your backpack itself.
And that's what I did, but some of the other guys that have been running them, they'll just put them down in their backpack. So there's nothing to catch on anything, which I haven't had any problem catching on anything because it's streamlined in the side pockets of your pack. But some of the guys will just put them right down in their pack. Like the lumbar pack that I have, I can fit 4 of these inside of that, and it's not very big. You saw it.
Right.
So they are compact for sure, but you don't sacrifice the step distance, and that's what I wanted when I built them, is I didn't want to have to compromise one thing for another.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. You know, you've done a really good job. It's been, you know, I feel you've got it thought out. I mean, and like I said, anybody out there that's actually looking to want to get a glimpse at this, I mean, you can go onto Facebook. You're on Facebook. Yep. Under B7 Outdoors. You can get a hold of Brandon. He does have these for sale on his site. But yeah, I'm kind of intrigued. I mean, like I said, I've never really saddle hunted, like I said, but I've investigated it, and I've seen a ton of people now getting into it, and the ones that I've seen like it. You know what I mean? They're just like, yeah, it's. But when I talked to you a few years ago, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if hanging off a tree like that. But I didn't realize the whole concept. I didn't, you know. Sure. I had it in my mind. I'm going to grab my climber. I'm going to go back in the woods. That's how
you do it. Right?
Yeah, that's how he did it, and did it for years. And that was my progression, you know, from just hanging a stand to ladder stands. And then if I wanted to be mobile, I went into that climber stand and did that. But yeah, I guess I really didn't put a lot of vision on it to really what was involved with it. But it's crazy how streamlined you can be and efficient you can be, and how fast you actually climb that tree. I mean, within just a few minutes. I mean, you were up that tree, and I just, you know, to say you've done it for 15 years, I'm like, man.
Yeah, I've been doing it a while, but it took a lot of years to get it to the point that it's at now. I'm sure some guys are quicker in the head than I am, so they might be able to pick it up quicker. I was always after that efficiency, so that was my whole. I was always tweaking things, you know, because I wanted to be more efficient. You know, I wanted to get that down and less fumbling here so I could focus on the hunt. And I knew that these things would benefit me if I could figure that organization out and that quick efficiency to it. But what was on the market at the time, I couldn't do it. So I was always messing with that for a number of those years. And so, I can't see myself. I mean, that the guy that built it, of course he's going to say it right. But honestly, whenever I look at any other sticks on the market, it's just like, why would I go back to that bulk?
Right.
I just can't see myself doing it.
Well, and there's pros and cons. You know, I mean, and we've talked about that. I mean, the guy that wants to hike in and do that, this is probably for him. The guy that's just walking 100 yards out on his property, going to hunt it, you know. But everybody has that niche. You know, like I said, I mean, there's been a ton of climbers. I've been a summit guy. And I loved my summit climbers. I mean, there's a ton of climbers out there, but you could never convince me. But once you get something like this that works compact and you can get it in there, like just like you said, why would you go back to the bulk if you didn't need to? I mean, if you got something just as functional, and safe as what's out there.
Yep.
And it just, once again, I can't say enough how crazy small this thing is compared to most of the ones I've seen, like I said. And it's not, you've probably seen it probably more than others, the progression of the price.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean?
It's went up quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, just like anything else, more popular it gets, the more things that are out there, and the money. So I mean, and we've even talked to him. We can talk a little bit about that too, as the price of stuff. I mean, new guy going to get into it. I mean, like you've said before, I mean, you can go with a cheaper setup, but you'll eventually.
If you're serious about it. And most guys, what I've seen and talked to guys, they'll get in at that cheaper price just to see if they like it or not. I wouldn't say don't go that route, but most of those guys do find out that, yeah, it works. It has these benefits that outweigh these cons, if there's many, which I understand. I mean, it's not as comfortable as a climber, but you have all these other pros. You're not limited most of the time to what tree you can climb. You and I had talked about that.
Right.
Whereas with the climber or other traditional setups, and also like you mentioned, on the different hunting properties, you're doing more public land hunting too, and that's the big thing. You ran into some guys that weren't real happy. What was your options? What kind of work do you want to go through to have to switch your stuff up when you run into a situation like that? Or when was the last time you had setup that you put the work in and set it up somewhere, come to find out in hunting season it wasn't going to work anymore, the deer figured you out, or someone stole your setup when you went out there one morning to hunt out of it?
Correct. Yeah.
With a saddle setup, you pretty much take it with you every time.
Right. And we have talked about that. We talked that on our turkey podcast that we had. Just one thing that deters you from going on public is just the people. Stuff like that. Just why would you go out and buy a $200-$300 stand, take the chance of taking it out there? Even a climber. I mean, you're packing in and out. If you get in somewhere, if you're in 3/4 of a mile, like some of the stuff that we've actually been on, I've actually left knowing that I'm going back out the next morning. Yep. I would leave it in the tree. You take the chance when you do that on public land that somebody else see you go in there.
Right.
But with this system, you pack in, pack out, and and we've always, all of us have been in a situation where we put it up and we end up wrong tree, wrong wind. You know what I mean? We want to get out there, the wind's wrong. With this setup, anything's possible. Like you said, I mean, unless there's not a lot of trees, I mean, you couldn't get into a big tree, but you have a lot more options with this than, let's say, my climber, because you can go around limbs. Yep. You don't have to limb nothing. You don't have to cut nothing. I mean, I guess that's what really intrigues me with this system in saddle. That I guess I'm more open to it now, because I feel that it, there is a lot, like you said when you were talking out there, safety. There's making sure you have the right equipment, and if you do it safe, it's just as efficient as anything that's out there. I mean, you just gotta wrap your mind around doing things, and other people's made the same comment, just you have to be efficient and make sure you're doing the right things the right way, and be consistent. You're doing the same thing every time. You don't cut any corners. But yeah, I really can see the benefit of being able to move. You get into a tree. I've been in that situation where you climb a tree and then, I think I could have been over here. Maybe tomorrow I'll go over there. And like I said, it's just a lot easier to be able to get in and out of the woods. Mm-hmm. And I don't know.
And that's, you brought up that point too, where you've left your stuff out there, your climber or whatever. Why did you leave it out there?
Just from the fact is I didn't want to have to drag it through in the morning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The work involved with a setup like that. Once you get this setup down, and this is, I wouldn't say exclusively go to this. I always tell people, like you and I have talked, at the bare minimum, get a setup and get good at using it for those times you need it. You may be the guy that, your parents or grandparents, you have access to private property where there's stands already set up. They work at certain times of year. You already put the time in to go to those. All you got to do is grab your bow on the right day and hit one of those spots. When you find out that ain't working anymore, what's your options? Or, you say, oh, hey, the neighbors showed up for deer season. Now they just ruined everything on the property. You don't give up hunting. You go find another spot, right?
Right.
So if you have a saddle setup, you can do it easier. You can just go back to the truck and be like, oh, got to be mobile today. Oh, they moved in. I got to move out, whatever. And you can take it with you. And then out-of-state hunts, like you're saying. The guys used to have a bunch of stands thrown in the back of their truck and sticks and just chuck it all in there. Get to wherever they're hunting out west, down south, go through all that work, setting all that stuff up, and hope that they picked a good spot for the time they're there. Whereas, like you said, if you had a setup like this, it'd be nothing for you to climb down and boom, run 100 yards, whatever. That unit, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
Move on.
And there's tons of, just for everybody out there like myself that's trying to get into it, like your setup, there's so many different variations. Once again, you can saddle, but to the setup that you have, to the saddle itself, to just how you can custom fit.
That's what's neat about where it's come.
Mm-hmm.
Is you can individualize it. Like what works for me might not work for you. But now you have all these options. There's not all this DIY stuff that you have to figure out. You can go hunting because you bought this and you figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just because, like I said, your setup, somebody like myself that likes to film my hunts and, I can figure that pack. In those steps, like I said, your pocket climbing sticks would fit right into that, carrying all that extra weight. For somebody like myself that's going to have the extra camera gear anyway, to be able to have something that's a little more compact and be able to position it on my pack. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to carry it in there, like I said, with my camera arms, I just think that it's one setup that you can custom. It's a little more customizable saddle hunting, in my opinion, just for the guy that just wants to do the run and gun and go real light. You can go real light.
Oh, yeah.
You
can go very minimal.
Yeah, and let's say you want to get back into that spot and say, I'm only going to hunt it a couple of days, only going to have a couple of days. You could just go real light, get in there, and it's just so many opportunities. And like I said, some guy that's just getting into it, the possibilities. I've just seen so many different variations of style of hunters because we all none of us probably all hunt the same,
right?
So, like I said, and that's a pretty apparent, like with the one stick method, and we kind of talked about that a little bit. It's just so it's whatever fits you or your style of hunting, and like I said, and it's not age. Like I said, I'll be 57, so I'm to the point where it's like, and that's why I did it, because I thought maybe this is just a young guy's game,
sure.
So maybe it wouldn't, maybe I'll stick to my ladder stand or something like that, but that's why I stuck to my climber, because I still wanted to be mobile, but how safe, like I said, if you do it right and you get the right equipment, you can be just as safe as anything else. And I'm not going to try to have to climb the tree and as fast as you did it today.
Right.
You know what I mean? If it took me an extra 5 minutes to get there, I'm still have all those options of being a little more stealth, a little more mobile of a hunter in that situation. You know what I mean? I'm not definitely not going to try to race you up a tree in a climb rank or in a saddle, because like I said, you made it look pretty easy.
Maybe that's what we should do one of these days. We should race.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm curious about that, though. It's been a long time since I've been in a climber. It would be curious to see the timing of it. because you've seen my setup now and how that when I get to the tree, I can just reach back, pull a stick out, start climbing. Whereas like with the climber or maybe other sticks or packs on the market where you got to take your pack off and start hooking things up and assembling things, whatever.
Oh, yeah, just trying to get it around the tree,
I'm curious
set the
about
angle.
that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The time difference and just you get to the tree. What kind of time does it take you to go through this stuff and this work to even get attached to a tree to be able to climb?
Right.
Whereas
or picking the right tree.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time I went into a woods and found a tree that I could probably get into, you could go in there and say, okay.
I'd have a lot more options.
Yeah, your options are 3 or 4 different trees, and I may have one. Mm-hmm. Because I've been in that situation before where I grabbed my climber and went in and, didn't have a trim saw, you're limited. I mean, you better do some scouting before you get in there.
Right.
And just with the saddle, you don't have to. You could actually go in. I mean, you can go in for the first time, know the area. I mean, everybody has Onyx maps anymore. You can do all your scouting online, and you could get a pretty good comparison and find out where everybody's at. And just walk in for the first time and get in and hunt. You don't have to worry about dragging something in there and then not having the right tree or big enough tree because, honestly, I mean, from what you showed me today, I mean, you could get anything, 10 inches. I don't know. You said a basketball. You said most people get in one about basketball, but, I mean, you showed us today.
Depending on your sticks, I mean, you could go smaller. I mean, not that you'd want to, but it has that capability.
Right.
Whereas a lot of other setups, like the one tree I showed you out there that I could probably go up that with a saddle. You wouldn't put a hang-on on it. And wouldn't put a climber on it.
No, and especially in the wind that we had today.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but no, like I said, it was super efficient. And I'm pretty intrigued on, getting out there and, starting that journey to, because we're into the end of April here. Our turkey season's kind of in full swing, but it gives you the summer to actually get into that, get comfortable with that, find out what saddle, because like I said, saddles are another thing. I mean, they're just there's a ton of them on the market. And
there's I think last time I counted probably 20 plus manufacturers of them. When I started in, like I said, it was only 2 or 3, and so it's come a long ways.
I guess we're going to put you on the spot here a little bit, but just because a new guy and anybody else out there that's looking to get into it, what would be your recommendation? I mean, if you had, because like I said, I've watched some of the videos and just how some of the saddles themselves, how some of them are easier to get like underneath to get more comfortable and get underneath. What would kind of be your recommendations as far as, ones that you've tried or that you've seen that somebody just trying to get into it like myself? Like I said, if I'm going to spend the money, I want to spend it once. I don't want to spend it, like you said, I don't want to spend it and find out, I like it, but man, this thing's not comfortable. Mm-hmm. What would be your recommendation? Or, I mean, what are some of the features that you would say that new guy would want to look for first?
Well, one thing you brought up was, the versatility of this, the way that you can customize it to yourself. So that alone is an awesome advantage to the saddle hunting. And you may not figure out that right away. I would say to start out finding somebody like, you and I, like I brought this setup to you, get to try it out. There's a lot of shows now that these saddle manufacturers are at where you can go and you try this stuff out. You can slip a saddle on. They got it tethered right there on the post. You can try out their platforms. They have sticks. I'd go try some out and then just keep learning, like you did. You jumped online and started watching videos.
Yeah.
Do that. You're going to, enough of that study, like with anything, you're going to be able to slowly start narrowing it down to your options and then go try those options out. Like when you go shoot a bow or something, you don't just go pick up one because so-and-so, I mean, they told you to go try it out. You go try it out, but do you just buy that one right off the shelf, or do you compare it to other ones? And that's what's cool about nowadays with saddles, is they've come that far, and there's so many guys into it now, and there's shows being built around that method of hunting that you can go and try before you buy, pretty much.
Yeah, I've been really surprised. Like I said, after talking to you on the phone, and then, just getting a little bit more feedback from you. And then, like I said, and then I started really getting into it. I'm thinking, man, this thing is a lot more popular than what I thought it was. I mean, I knew a few people did it, but I really wasn't thinking that it was as big as it. Yeah. Like in the last couple of years. I mean, if you see a lot of the people that are out there doing the instructional videos and stuff like that, just trying to get that out there, they're probably most of them just in the last 2 or 3 years that I've seen. You know what I mean? Trying to, I'm kind of excited. I mean, I think that I just seen a ton of different options. I guess that's what intrigues me but like I said, being the new guy, getting into it, I kind of want to make sure that I'm doing it. I kind of want to get onto that, even if it costs me a little bit more. I want to be into that, where I'm not changing it out. You know what I mean? Because I've seen, I don't know. I mean, what are the, I guess, because I don't know, but is there any weight restrictions? I mean, because, you get some of those climbers, that they say 300 pounds or, you get some of them. Is there any type of restrictions on those saddles?
Have standard testing on all that the manufacturers go through. And they do have standards that they are tested to. And usually it's tested over what they're actually rated at. Mm-hmm. So sticks, platforms, saddles, they have a standard of testing that they do on them. And so when you see those weight ratings on there, you can be assured they're solid.
And then they run into that. And they run the same as most of your climbers at that 300-pound range.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's roughly the standard usually. Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, just for myself and anybody out there that's kind of looking into it, that was like mine. When I first get into a stand, I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't want to be pushing I want to get one that
you feel confident.
Right.
It's been tested and it's going to hold you.
Right. And, and like I said, a different concept. Like I said, I love the concept, but, you get up there and you're 20 feet up. You want to know that.
Your equipment's going to.
Right. And I guess that, to be totally honest with you, when we were talking about it before, and I seen saddle hunters, I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to hang off a tree with just on a little rope. I want something that's a little more framework to it. Sure. And I just think that it's natural for people when you get 20 feet off the ground that you want to be tethered in good, and that's what I guess I really see. I mean, it's a safe system. I mean, from the ground, you're tethered right to the tree the whole time.
Yep. Climbing trees is a dangerous thing anyways, no matter how you do it. The arborist, everybody. But there's safety things that you can do. And as long as you go, like you're saying, you go by those things and you're checking and you're making sure you're doing it, you can assure you're safe. There's always things that can happen, and we'll never eliminate every possibility. But for the most part, you are always tethered to the tree if you're doing it right. And then as far as you said, like around limbs and stuff like that, you'll have your lineman's rope or belt that you will use, and that's usually when you're ascending the tree. But if you do encounter a limb or something, you have your tether as well, that once you get to hunting height, you would then buckle into that, and then you could take off your lineman's rope. So you have two setups there. So when you do get to a limb, you put your other one on, make sure that's hooked up safely. Your carabiner locks are locked before you take your other one off, and you can leapfrog over the limbs that way. So you're always attached. So I would say, it's one of the safest things you could do.
Yeah, and and there's the positive. Like I said, there's just not a tree that you're limited to. I mean, you could.
For the most part, yeah.
I mean, like I said, something huge or real small, but for the most part.
Well, even with those, you definitely ain't going to use anything else on them.
Correct. Right.
And for what this setup affords, the value in it, where you do have that versatility, I mean, makes a lot of sense.
with you being in it for the 15 years, I guess what do you think progressed the most over that time? I mean, as far as
good question.
I mean, as far as equipment,
I'd probably have to say climbing sticks. The way you get up the tree has probably been the biggest, because if you think about it, when I started into it, I tried every little thing to be more compact. Like I did the ring of steps is what they call it. So once you get up to hunting height, you got a strap with multiple single steps on it that you can kind of rotate around the tree. So that's another advantage that we haven't talked about. Maybe we'll do that next, about the shooting possibilities versus other setups. But the ring of steps, and then they started to come out with platforms. So you have the old hang-on stands and your climbing stands. They all have a platform, somewhere for you to stand. It's always been like that. And then with the mobile hunting thing, when I got into it, kind of shifted away from that. But then realized, man, it's nice to have at least enough platform that you can stand up on. And, you know, if you got to tuck your coat in or put a coat on and then tuck it into your saddle or whatever, you have enough room that you can stand straight up and do that. And you're still hooked to the tree. So if you happen to lose a little balance, boom, you're right there. You're not going anywhere. So I would probably say sticks, because there's always been some sort of a platform set up for the most part for guys. They got a lot of cool ones out there now that are pretty small and lightweight. But I would probably say the progression of sticks, which, I mean, this kind of goes to it, but I mean, the lightness of sticks now, this one, as far as compactness goes, I would probably say that's probably went the farthest in innovation, is how you get up the tree. And then aiders, of course, that was a big thing. When I started in, had no concept. Why don't you hook a rope ladder to the thing and save a stick and the weight?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and just about everybody has that.
They're all doing it now.
Yeah.
Because they realize, oh, look, I can cut out a little bit of weight with this apparatus, and weight and bulk. I mean, both things you achieve with that.
And just like when you started out, I mean, they hang that about high height. It gives you that little bit extra where you can grab into it and get you up just a little bit more.
Yep.
It was cool.
You can, lots of guys do it different ways. Like some feel safer just to use maybe a 2 or 3 step aider on their first stick because they're not that far off the ground. Mm-hmm. They feel more confident in that versus using it as they go up. And then some guys will go with a 3-step aider on their first stick, and then they go to 2 or single ones on their other sticks. So, and there's so many options, so many people, like you said, you can customize it for whatever works for you.
Well, and you know, talking about that, and we're getting back to your stick here, the pocket climbing stick, you also have that option where you can hang one of those aiders off that and still keep this compact and hang them off there. And, you know, because like I said, I've seen some where they're actually attached to it. Yep. They slide them out. But this is actually, you know, once again, you can put that in your side pack with your rope and you can pull that out. And this thing is, like I said, size of a water bottle. You can actually get it and then, you know, still have that same concept and still be that compact. Mm-hmm. But like I said, that's what I was really intrigued with the most today when I watched you pull that out of there and went to town climbing that tree, like I said, and I know you were probably 11, 12 feet.
Yeah, for just a demonstration, it was nothing to get up that high.
Yeah, I mean, just in, I think 5 minutes maybe. I don't even know if it was 5 minutes.
I doubt it, because I've timed it before in a full climb, and I might be at 5 minutes, 6 minutes maybe. That's all the way up and tethered in. Like when I get to the tree, I don't take anything off. I just pull a stick out, hook my aider up, my lineman's belt, and just go up, put the platform on. And that's because of this system that I had. It took a while, but I got it where everything is accessible off my pack.
Well, and just like you said, and we talked about this, it's customizing it to left or right-handed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. How accessible you are to reach your gear, and what feels comfortable when you're hanging off that tree, what side you're going to feel comfortable at. But so let's take it to the other side now. You know, we've talked pretty much about the setup, but what were your advantages of hunting? I mean, actually, like we were just talking about shooting and your capability. I mean, because the ones that I've seen, you set up opposite. Everything that I've read, and let's say if you're shooting to the left, and you're right-hand shooter, and this is your shooting zone, you actually set up to the opposite side, 180 off from what you would normally just hang your stand. Correct? I mean, is that a fair statement?
Yep. A typical hang-on stand. Say, and this happened to me one time early on in the saddle hunting too, is I'd picked a tree out and I had a trail to my left. And so in a traditional tree stand, I would have hung that stand on the other side of the tree. And so I'd be sitting with the tree to my back. Okay. And this is my strong side. I'm right-handed, so I'd be shooting straight off to my left. In this situation, I had the saddle, so I was actually on the other side of the tree. The tree was in front of me. Okay. I had a doe come in on my weak side over here. If I was in the traditional tree stand, I would not have been able to turn it up to shoot at that deer like that. With the saddle, I just spun around to the offside and got her.
Yeah, and if you were, it's a lot less movement, where you could, like I said, I've seen a lot of advantages just to that, is being able to just be able to move and still get that shot without having to spin yourself completely around. Because even myself, I mean, should be tethered in. I mean, if you're up that high, and then, you have that, your tether rope or whatever, especially when, like you said, you're going to shoot to your weak side. But I mean, that's some of the advantages that I see, that just the capability of being able to get that shot, and everything always happens. If you're going to set up this way, they're always going to come in this way.
Right.
I mean, that's just, we've all been into that, where it's just, we've got them figured out, and next thing you know, he comes right, and then he comes in over here. So, but no, I mean, so I guess tell us a little bit about, that for some of us like myself, what are some of the things that you've seen that are the advantages of that? I mean, other than that, I mean, situations that you've been in or you've encountered, or other people you've hunted with encountered with that. I mean, from the traditional climber guy, or what I mean, that the advantages.
I would say the biggest advantage is the mobility in it. It really is. I have a young friend that I finally talked into saddle hunting this last season. He went out a few days in the season, had to move and be mobile. Shot the biggest buck he's shot to date. He got out of the traditional, hey, I hunt this property I've had access to for all these years. We've done it this old way. Oh, man, this does make sense. Went and pulled it off.
Oh, cool.
And my cousin, I finally, same way. He put in all that work. He, go get her. Talked him into it. Got to be more mobile. Can't even talk. More mobile. Started bouncing around. He got out of, hey, I only hunt these places. I just put the time in. Something will pay off, hopefully. To, man, I just made this happen in a short amount of time. Not only from being mobile, but even educating himself into, hey, how do deer think? How do they move? Where do I go? Like you mentioned, like the e-scouting, you can do a lot of that. But once you get there, you may realize, hey, I can't hunt where I thought I'd be able to hunt. So I got to be able to move over here. And you've studied whitetail for a long time. You've read, you've watched people. And the one thing that clicked for me too, and I've been trying to be mobile for a while, but the one thing that clicked for me with it was a lot of these guys that are killing these giant deer. Almost every one, you listen enough of their stuff, and they talk about that first time in there. That first time in there. No, I didn't sit here straight week hunting this deer. I made sure everything was right, and then I went in. Having a mobile setup like this makes that easier. So those are advantages I say would probably be the couple top ones. And then like we were talking with the regular stands, even to make a shot, like that deer come in over here on me, in your regular stand, how many times have you, that awkward, you can't get the form down, and then all of a sudden your elbows hitting the tree.
Well, I guess talking about that too, is there any learning curve, because like I said, most of us are on a flat platform. We're not kind of leaning away from the tree. Is there a learning curve? I mean, what are the learning curves to shooting that way? I mean, other than just standing straight up and pulling back. I mean, did you have to change your hunting or your shooting style to do the tether? I mean, to be tethered like that, because most people don't hang off the tree like that. You're off a little bit. I mean, is there any learning curve to that? I mean,
yeah, I would say so. It's the biggest thing is getting comfortable with it, and like with anything, it takes some repetition. It takes doing a little more, and that's where most guys will recommend, hey, just tether off to the tree at ground level, and just get the feel for it, the swing of it or whatever, and then slowly, as you feel more confident, work your way up. Because I still remember my backyard, my first time in the saddle, and I got up there. I'm like, I'm not too sure about this. Like, I'm scared, like the thoughts you had, like you had mentioned, like, I don't know about just hanging off this rope, like my life's on this one thing. And the more I did it, the more confident I felt. And as long as you do those safety checks, there's really not much to worry about at all.
And, like I said, in being an old dog and trying to teach him a new trick, what I mean, how you've always hunted, what I mean, how you always shoot, and, you try to be square, and, I guess that's just not something that I feel for myself, like I said, and it's April, so I'm going to get into the tree and practice, because everybody practices in their backyard, but I think this system right here, I'm going to practice more if I'm going to shoot my bow, or when I shoot my bow.
Yeah, definitely get
I'm going to shoot out of my saddle.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's because you can shoot from ground level and probably get into a ladder stand or my climber and shoot fine that way in those situations. But to me, I just see it's, this isn't something you're just going to go buy and go into the woods.
Yeah, it's not recommended.
Yeah.
No, you don't just go grab it like you would a new rifle.
Yeah.
And then just take it out. No, you need to practice.
Yeah, it's
sure.
Also, I mean, I'm just, because for myself and anybody out there that's looking into this is a system, even though it's compact and it's, it's a really good system. It's really one that you want to get before season. You don't want to buy a saddle a month before season and think, I'm going to be a saddle hunter this year. And, maybe there's some guys out there that are good at that. I'm not one of them, I'm sure.
Right.
But it's definitely something that, like I said, I intrigued in getting the setup and actually trying it, because I can see it where it opens up so many opportunities at different things. Like I said, and, with, we had talked about this too. I mean, you set up a stand on your property, and next thing you know, you come in and the neighbor has his whole property logged off. So, next thing you know, you put all this time in, you set this stand up, the property next to you gets clear cut or logged off. Next thing you know, the deer just start, or they clear this out and somebody puts a house right there. Next thing you know, we've all been, I guess, into that, or had properties we've hunted that's been sold off. Nowadays it's not common for 40 acres to be split up and a house be put on it.
Exactly right.
And it takes kind of something you've hunted for 20 years and kind of change the whole pattern of these deer. So here you are. I mean, like I said, and we had talked about, this is a perfect example of, if you have this system, you just move. I mean, and and you can just move with it. You know what I mean? You can set up different, deer not getting used to that same stand sitting in there. We've also talked about that.
And, think about it. You go out of state and you pull into the parking lot, and all of a sudden there's 20 vehicles there. You'd been down there preseason, whatever, set up stands. You get in there and realize your odds are pretty low going in there and hunting.
Well, I've been there.
Already set up. Yeah. What are you going to do then? You going to go ruin those guys' hunts to pull your stand down to move somewhere else and say, oh, they had it coming? No, public land hunters, we should be above that, really, So what are your options in that situation? Are you out to hunt? You put all that money into going out of state or wherever, maybe even just drive a couple hours in state, and that's the scenario. Well, if you got it with you already,
yeah, you just go
you
scout.
can move on.
Yeah, I mean, and we do that. I mean, we've done that several. I mean, we've always had several areas that we've hunted or accessed the woods from another. We have our main, but like I've hunted southern Ohio and some of the wildlife areas down there, and they're anywhere between 10, 14,000 acres, 8,000 acres. So I mean, they're pretty good size, but you have a spot. We've had a spot where we went for years, and I went down there a couple years ago. I was hunting by myself and got down there, and there was 3 trucks there. And of course, and you hit that time where it's rut.
Right.
This was a system that I could have definitely used because like I said, I accessed the trail the same way, but I was 3/4 of a mile back up and then up off a hill.
Yep.
I mean, and I drug that thing most of the time, and I mean, and you can get into the end of October where you're still 50 degrees, and you throw a pack and camera gear and a climber and hike 3/4 of a mile. I mean, I guess this is why I see this system as being
intrigued with it.
Yeah. I mean,
because of your past experiences. That was mine too. Like, I still remember the hunt that I decided I'm going to a saddle. I had a lightweight little 6-pound stand I bought used from a coworker, and hunting late season here in Michigan. It was back then we had some harder winters, but I was going for it all season, right? So I'm out there. I set the stand up. I had some different sticks. Got up there, got settled in. That stand was popping and pinging like you wouldn't believe. It was so cold and it was quiet. I'm like, there's no chance the deer's coming by here. I'm like, that's it. I'm done. The stand's got to go. And that's when I just found out about saddles, and it was like, at that time in my life, finances were tight, real tight. And I'm like, man, how am I going to do this? Like, I'm sold on it now. Mm-hmm. Just how do I come up with the money, And so I was able to acquire one, and I haven't went back since. Like I said, 15, 16 years ago, it's going on. And I wouldn't say it's for everybody, like we already discussed. Mm-hmm. You may have property, access to family property, whatever, where you already have setups. You like to go back. You had a lot of memories in those stands or places, and you go back there for that a lot of times. It doesn't always produce, but when you start getting a little more serious, and I know you've been a real serious bow hunter for a while, this kind of stuff makes more sense, because that is really, we want the advantage, and we want to have less work to do that, and this saddle stuff kind of affords that, in my mind. That's what sold me on it.
Yeah, and and we've also talked about this too. I mean, and the popularity. I mean, bow hunting is actually from 15 years ago. Even when I started, several years ago, bow hunting is just, and especially with even crossbows now in archery season. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of people out there now. So to be able to get that, to be able to have a light pack, to be able to get in there, go a little deeper, being able to get back in, to me is even more essential. Sure. To be able to do that and get away from people, or maybe get back in somewhere where maybe you have to walk, maybe you can't drive, but if you can get back in there, this type of system. And I guess that's what really gets to me, because like I said, being able to hunt the public land like I am, a lot of people they're convenient. They're going to be convenient. They're going to go into that quarter mile. They're going to go in there. And I'm just the opposite. I'm going to go in there, do my scouting, do what I have to do, but at the same time, not have to run into the conflict. And when we even did, I've had just as much on leased property, Me and my son just went through that. And it'd have been nice not to have my stuff hanging out there, even though it was a leased property
Sure.
and it shouldn't have had any issues, but we did have issues. And this is another system. Like I said, I could have went in there, I could have moved, and just been just a lot less hassle with somebody messing with your stuff or creating havoc for you when you're just trying to hunt and have a good time.
That's another thought on it too, is you make the wrong guy mad, whether it was your intention or not, and a lot of times, as you and I have talked, we don't want it. We're going to avoid it, We'll get our stuff, we'll move on. The work involved, like we already talked about, there's that aspect too, but still, if we can even avoid that conflict, if that's what's going to happen, say you have a setup out there and they know where your setup is or whatever, who knows if that thing gets compromised because they look at you the wrong way. You know what I mean? So as safety goes, I mean, that's another factor.
I actually just went through that with a guy messing with my trail cameras and put a note on my setup, thought I was trespassing. I was not. Ended up having to get the DNR involved. But, that's just the unfortunate things of, like I said, of public land hunting. I mean, this was on leased property and having that, which I thought I was safe.
Yep.
But once again, I mean, you have to get the DNR involved, and then, something you don't want to do. If you could just talk to the person and say, hey, I don't.
Yeah, we always try to do it the right way, but they don't always. Not everybody sees it that way.
No, and it was not going to be they were trying to push me out of there because they were trespassing to start with. And 7 hours away. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, if it wasn't for the trail cameras,
that time and effort put into it.
And technology today actually makes it good. We're getting on that part of it. I mean, that's the only reason I knew the guy was around my stuff was because of my trail cameras. Being 7 hours away, it was actually beneficial to have that.
Sure. And
got a picture of the guy, and and unfortunately, I mean, he messed with my cameras and taped them up and stuff. He didn't do anything to my stand, but like with this setup, we'll get back to this. I mean, it just makes it so much nicer not to have to leave your equipment out there and stuff like that. But Brandon, like I said, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us a little bit about it. And if anybody actually, like I said, trying to get into saddle hunting,
I'm always open to talk to somebody too. I love talking about it, as you know. The last few times we've talked about it, man, I could go on and on.
You've definitely got me intrigued. And like I said, after talking to you and going online and looking at, and honestly, being the new guy and seeing what's out there in steps, I'm intrigued on, like I said, your setup right here. I mean, it's just crazy how compact this thing is. And a guy that, like I said, camera gear and everything else that, that we're going to carry in there. I mean, this thing is, like I said, the size of a water bottle. You cannot, and you get...
It'd be tough to get something any smaller without
and
more
you said
compromise.
You run what, 3 sticks?
Yep, that's what I've been running.
And you run in, and you get to that 20-foot mark.
Yeah, I can stretch it out pretty good.
Yeah.
Not that I recommend it to everybody, but using an 8er is the big help to it.
Yeah.
So, you're not carrying a ton of weight if you're able to utilize that.
And honestly, that's what I liked about it, because I seen how fast you were up there, and I like to hunt around that 20-foot. Like I said, and we always talked about that too. It's a situation you're in, because you may be in a spot where you only have to get to 15. Yep. For cover or that. I mean, you don't have to go high, but you also...
You have the capabilities if you need to.
Right.
And if you don't...
And you were actually above 20 feet. You said you were hunting some red pine or something.
Yeah, and situational. Red pine stand, being a little higher because you're a little more exposed, is more beneficial. Hunting a cedar swamp, you don't have to do that.
Right.
Yeah. So, and with my setup that I've done, and it's not for everybody, but where I've got with it, where I can access, whatever I need by just reaching back. Say, it's that cedar tree or whatever. I may only need one of these in the aider.
Right.
And I don't have to take off any other sticks. I just grab the one out, put it on. Whereas some of the sticks on the market, you would have that bundled package all stacked together. And unless you individually secured each stick, you wouldn't necessarily be able to do that. You'd end up having to take them all apart or undo the buckle, take the one off, reset it, and then reattach it to your pack. So that's, for me, use what you need.
Right.
And have it set up that way for efficiency.
Yeah, not have any issues with what are you going to do? Okay, now you're at 10 feet or 12 feet, and that's where you're going to be. Okay, now you got all these extra sticks. Okay, now you got to hang them or hang them off your pack or hang, you know what I mean?
Or some of them to your pack.
Yeah. I mean, because you're going to have to hang them somewhere, right? I mean,
yeah. When you go up the tree, most guys in the saddle hunting, you would end up taking your sticks off, and then you would have clips or something that you would hang them off your saddle so they're there when you need them. So you start climbing, you can reach down, grab that one off. So essentially with these, with the right pack, you can set them up where you don't have to stage any of these other sticks like that. These can just be ready to go.
Right, and they're out of your way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just like I said, most of the time what I've seen so far, they just they take their pack off, hang their pack. There's nothing going to stop you. I mean, once you put your platform out there, getting around it, you're not going to have to worry about any extra sticks hanging out anywhere onto your pack or hanging down from your tree. These things are just super compact.
Yeah, and some of the guys that have been running them, they'll run them right in their packs. They don't have to hang them out.
Right.
I just that's what I found works for me. Yeah. That efficiency. You get to the tree, just start climbing.
Yeah, customizable. So, once again, we're right back to that.
Versatile.
I mean, so, like I said, anybody that would like to get a hold of Brandon at B7 Outdoors, definitely reach out. He can explain really how his sticks work. If you'd like to purchase, they can get a hold of you. All your information's right there.
Yep, should all be on the website www.b7outdoors.co right now.
Okay.
Yep.
And like I said, you're in the works of even doing a little more innovation.
Yep, going to try to keep the innovation going.
Good.
Yep.
We look forward to seeing it. Maybe we can have you back on here and we can talk a little bit more. So I guess for now, we appreciate everybody hanging on with us. Like I said, we'd like to have you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, and anybody listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you could give us a like, we definitely would appreciate that. We're going to continue to have guests like Brandon on here. We love bow hunting, but we're going to talk all mostly hunting related issues. But for now, I think we're going to sign off. And like I said, Brandon, I appreciate you stopping by. Me. Yeah, I appreciate you stopping by, and the demonstration, and we'll have that up there. I mean, Brandon did a demonstration for us this afternoon, and it was pretty cool actually to see it. Like I said, it's different to see somebody in person
doing it.
Yeah, take you through it. So I guess I would encourage anybody to find somebody like Brandon out there that has that set up and kind of talk you through it, because I guess I'm to the point where I want to do it once. You know what I mean? I want that equipment, even if it costs you a little bit more, or cost me a little bit more. I want to do it right, because if it's my butt hanging off 20 feet, I want to make sure I'm doing it right and have all, because there is a lot of things you need to do. There's a lot of safety things that you need to do, and I watched you rappel down that tree pretty fast. Don't know if I'm going to be doing that anytime soon.
Yeah,
but
not everybody has to do that. I just figured I'd show you another aspect to it, another option.
Oh, it's definitely nice. It's a nice option. To get down. It's
fun too.
Yeah, I think I want to practice climbing a little bit fast.
Oh yeah.
First, but once again, I appreciate everybody. Once again, if you could give us a like, we'd definitely appreciate it here at Anchor Point Outdoors, the Hunters Podcast. Until next time, we will see you later. Thanks. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody tuning into this week's episode of the Anchor Point Outdoors Hunters Podcast. From all of us here at Anchor Point Outdoors, we hope you have a great week.